Hey, September 11th, 2018.
19.
Just kidding.
Well, we all lose time, you know.
We do lose time.
Yeah.
See if anybody's paying attention.
Yeah, I did.
Good job, John. Thanks. John's here in the studio, obviously. Awesome. Thanks for being here, John.
I get the gold star.
Paying attention. He gets the gold star for paying attention.
Yeah, all right.
All right. But yeah, Memorial Day, we were just talking about it before the podcast started. I was kind of lost in thinking about it. You know, you get those images stuck in your head of, whatever it means to you. And of course, we were also talking about, there's a whole generation that doesn't really have that experience. And it's just another page in a history book. So, but anyways, welcome to the show. It's the Genesee County Compassion Club show. Thank you for joining me today. We're back in the studios at All Points TV, and we're rocking it, making it happen. I got John here with me, making this thing roll, and I want to get you guys up to date with what's been happening on medical marijuana here in Michigan, what's been going on down at the Genesee County Compassion Club, and events that we've got going. So let's get this thing started without further ado. I want to first make mention of our Adopt a Highway. It's coming up here real soon. You can go to our Facebook page if you want to guys check out our events and other upcoming things that we've got going on. But yeah, Facebook, check it out. We're meeting. It is, let me pull up the date here. It's like next Saturday. 21st. There we go. I just had to look at the date. So it's not this Saturday, but it is next. September 21st. We're doing the Adopt a Highway. Make sure I'm looking at the right year. Yes, I am. It is last cleanup of the year, M13, and we'd love to have you guys out there. Hopefully it'll be beautiful weather. Should be easy cleanup, and it's a great opportunity to go out and continue, showing support, breaking the stigma, doing all that. And I'd love to see you guys there. So please show up if you can. We meet at the club at 9 a.m., and we meet out on M13 at 10 a.m. And you can meet us either way, whatever's convenient for you. And then you get to come back and we'll feed you. Give you a voucher, you can have whatever you want on the menu, and it's well worth your time just for that alone. But definitely love to have you guys there. Same thing with the soup kitchen. We got that coming up here. That's going to be coming up here on next Tuesday, 17th, I do believe. And we're serving the lunch menu as always, and we definitely could use volunteers. So if you guys could spare just a couple hours out of your day, really appreciate it serving down there, and we'd like you to be a part of it. So we got those going on. Other things I want to make mention of that are fun, and I'm definitely looking forward to, is our Trunk or Treat. That's in October. I believe the date on that is the 27th. Let me pull it up here. It is a Sunday that we're doing it. It is open to the public. Of course, it's out in the parking lots for the whole community. We want to do this thing up big, do it right. And it is the 27th, Sunday, October. Mark your calendars, get your decorations ready, and we're looking forward to having a good time. You can start stocking up on candy and all that stuff now while it's still cheap. All right, and then of course also we have our Halloween party that's coming up. It's on Halloween. It's at the G. There's no extra charge. It's just gonna be a rockin' special day. If you're a member, or even if you're not a member, it's a good day to join. You definitely want to make it down to the club on Halloween. It's gonna be awesome time. So other than that, you want to get to the club to get that fire. All right, it's hard to find right now. I know the club's always on fire, and today's no different. So make it happen. Got some news I want to share with you guys, let you know what's been going on in the community. Fresh off the press, let's get it rocking here. I want to start you guys out with your neighboring city, to the west. That is Lansing I'm discussing. Lansing has been nothing short of a nightmare for people in the cannabis business, caregivers and patients alike, and also including the new businesses, if you will, from the MMFLA. So Lansing's just been a real pain in the butt. They've had, open up businesses, shut them down, open them up, shut them down. And now they've got some new rules that they're rolling out. These are not in place yet. I think there's still time for input. They just had a meeting today, I do believe. So literally this is like brand new news. You probably will hear about it from another source by the end of the day. But I want to share with you some of the points, key provisions in the proposal that are included. And it says here, before I get into this, that a discussion of the amendments is set for 5:30 p.m. September 23rd during the Council's Committee of the Whole. So if you're in the Lansing area, if you're affected by this, or you know someone who is, you might want to definitely, show up on the 23rd at 5:30. But anyways, this is what their proposal is. And I guess when I look at this, I'm glad that I don't live in Lansing. But at any rate, let me get into this. This is what they're looking to do. They say, first of all, we want to raise the cap on the number of stores that we have in the Lansing area. Well, that's kind of funny because right now they don't have any. So thanks for raising the cap. But at any rate, they raised it up to 28 stores. That's what they say they're going to possibly allow. 28 stores to sell cannabis for recreational and or medical use. So it says under the existing ordinance, as many as 25 dispensaries can sell to patients. So they're saying currently right now they've got up to 25 places licensed for medicinal marijuana, and that they're going to allow up to 28. So they're going to allow an extra 3 to include medical and recreational. So that's what it is. So is 28 the right number for Lansing? I don't know. I don't have the answer to that. But that's what the council thinks is the right number. The next thing they have put on here is that they're going to allow up to 4 one-stop pot shops, as they call it. And I think it's funny that they use this term because nobody else has used this term. This is something they've come up with to describe what they're saying is defined as a micro business in Michigan's regulations. And if you've been at all paying attention, you know that in the recreational law, there is a provision allowed for micro businesses. This is for small business, direct sale to consumer of up to 150 plants. So pretty small gardens. It's not a part of the MMFLA network. This is, like I said, direct to consumer sale license. And I think the rules that came out recently suggested this license is going to be around the neighborhood of, I think it was $8,000 paid to the state, I think on an annual basis. Anyway, this is a small business. This would be like, similar to like a home business, like a daycare, or maybe a hair salon, or maybe you've got the auto shop in the licensed auto shop in the shed out back, which is no small feat anymore nowadays. But you get the idea. It's small business. It's probably going to be single family, or maybe you've got a couple families working together to make something like this happen. You could even break it down, like for example, you see occasionally around here in the area, in generous areas around, you'll see micro wineries. So they only make a couple different kinds of wines, or maybe just one or whatever. Very limited production. The only place you can buy it is right there. And that's what this is going to be for Michigan's cannabis market when we talk about micro businesses. So in my personal opinion and views, I would think that the state would be handing out a lot of micro business licenses, to those of people who want to invest and to go after this. But I would think they'd be pretty loose about this. They would allow a lot of them, especially since they're going to be, like I said, probably mostly home-based, small operation, or maybe they rent out a small commercial space and they're able to do it all in-house right there, grow, sell, process, the whole kit and caboodle, all in one small location. But at any rate, Lansing is saying that they only want to license up to 4 of these. So there you go. And they say right in there, cannabis microbusiness is allowed to grow up 150 marijuana plants, process that product, and then sell it to customers on site. That is in contrast to the licensed retailers and dispensaries, which can sell marijuana but cannot grow or process it. And the city council vice president, Peter Spadafore, said he supports the microbusiness concept because the small-scale business model will be accessible mom-and-pop entrepreneurs. So it seems that the city council vice president has a pretty keen understanding of how this is supposed to work, but yet only limits 4 mom-and-pop shops in the entire city. Ridiculous. Next thing I want to tell you about this proposed ordinance for Lansing is they will possibly allow up to 4 marijuana social clubs. These are for recreational purposes. It's a new category of businesses. It designates consumption. It's designated consumption establishment, and it is basically to create a social space. Blah blah blah. But again, they're only going to allow up to 4 of these. They're not allowed to serve alcohol. Not allowed to serve food. Can only be open between 9 and 10 p.m. Customers ages 21 or over. If the cannabis is not obtained directly from a licensed retailer or micro business, the business would be a bring your own weed for customers ages 21 and over. So anyways, they describe what it would be. It kind of mirrors what the state says what these things are for recreational purposes, and they basically limit that to 4 of these within the city. And then they go on to set a cap on the number of licensed grow facilities. And I think this is very interesting because you can see there's a very limited amount on each of the previous categories that they've decided to address. But then when they get to this category, it sort of gloves off. And here we go. Council could allow up to 75 grow facilities initially, and then lower that cap to 55 grow licenses. The starter cap would grandfather in scores of establishment, as many as 75 by some estimates, that could receive medical marijuana grow licenses before the council adopts new rules. Lansing's existing medical marijuana ordinance does not limit the number of businesses that can receive licenses to cultivate cannabis. In Lansing, these licenses must be renewed annually, so the city could reduce the number of growers by choosing not to renew some licenses. So the city basically went out and said, look, we already have 75 potential growers in the city, licensed growers. All right, we're not talking about caregivers. We're not talking about micro licenses because those don't even exist yet. They're talking about existing businesses already planned out in the city or existing growing 75. And they're saying, look, that's all we basically are going to look at. And I think that right there is it shows on one hand, we have the vice president making a comment about the micro business, showing that he clearly understands this business model and the concept of the program itself. But on the other hand, in action, the council is going and approving these numbers, which do not line up to the business itself. How can you say that 75 grow licenses is the right number for 28 stores in your city? And that 4 micro businesses is the right number, or 4 social clubs for that matter. And of course, the city reserves the ability to be able to change these things in the future, but I think these caps are a little bit ridiculous. And I'm glad I don't live in Lansing. So if you live in Lansing, there's still time to put input on this. I'd recommend you check this out, get involved, because it looks like this is what they want to do at this point, and this is the latest news from that. So check it out, and good luck, all my friends in Lansing. Good luck. All right, next subject, moving on here. This is the House, our House in Michigan legislature. They have voted overwhelmingly in majority for labels. And we talked about this on the last podcast. I'm going to get into this a little bit today. Let me pull it up here. If I can find it. Let's see here. House votes to put warning labels on pot for mothers and breastfeeders. That's what this one says. This is from MERS. Is that what they call them? Breastfeeders?
Call what breastfeeders?
That's what this newspaper article headline says, is breastfeeders. I've never heard of anybody being referred to as a breastfeeder.
Oh, no. I haven't either.
Breastfeeding?
Yeah.
Breastfed?
Well, I guess makes sense. I mean, but it just seems kind of almost like a disparaging
It seems
term.
like an odd term.
Yeah, almost like a disparaging term.
I got a little bit of negative connotation to that.
Yeah.
Now, I shouldn't be judging. I have no idea, but anyways, back to the article. The House voted overwhelmingly today to put warning labels on recreational and medical products to tell pregnant women and breastfeeding mothers that smoking pot can have harmful effects on their infants. Here's the reps you want to be aware of that did this marvelous thing. Okay. House Bill 4126, House Bill 4127, sponsored by Representative Thomas Albert of Lowell, Republican, and Representative Dare Rendon, Republican out of Lake City. And they require labels in the same way tobacco and alcohol products carry warning labels now. And they justify this, saying that there's been some pretty alarming studies showing that in an unfortunate trend, a lot of women are continuing to use marijuana while they are pregnant. It is pretty shocking that someone would make that choice, and we want to make sure that they have the right information. That's what he says. And then they list a little, some information here to back up their claims. The warning label will read, use by pregnant or breastfeeding women or by women planning to become pregnant may result in fetal injury, preterm birth, low birth weight, or developmental problems for the child. That's what the warning is going to say. Representative Beau Lefebvre out of Iron Mountain, Republican, said he is not a fan of the idea. He says if we were to put a warning label on everything that is potentially dangerous, everything, including Tim Skubic, would have a warning label. When it gets to the point where everything has warning labels on it, the labels themselves become less effective, Lefebvre said. And Albert argues that the labels have an effect. So here we go. That's a fundamental difference of beliefs. That's why you have these things. And here we go. Voting no were Lefebvre, also Representative Republican out of Wayland, Stephen Johnson, Michelle Hotenga, Representative out of Manton, and Yusuf Rabi, a Democrat out of Ann Arbor. All voted no to this, but there was enough yeses that the vote will now move to the Senate for consideration. So that's it. Basically putting warning labels on this, as we talked about, my opinion on that, where you can find information about that. And I would also agree with the senator out of Iron Mountain sentiment that, yes, if you put a warning label on everything, the warning labels themselves become ineffective. And I would agree with that. But I could also see the other side of the argument that says, sometimes they are effective, and if it saves one person, great. And as far as the science behind whether or not this is true or not, it also can be debated on both sides. So I don't think that it's necessarily a negative thing, because if a woman is pregnant, she should at least have an informed decision-making process and be able to educate herself and then make that decision for her and the unborn child. That's really what I feel.
I'm just puzzled, because you probably see memes like this, and it reflects my thought too. Is how did we get to this point? All the generation I came up with, we drank water out of a garden hose. We didn't have to worry about whatever's lurking in them now, allegedly. We drank white milk. We ate processed bread. We actually rode bikes without helmets.
Bread.
Huh?
Wonder Bread.
Yeah, that stuff. That stuff is. You can ball it up and squeeze into a wheat glass. It's not baked. It's steamed. But
anyway. I'll tell you this: McDonald's wishes they had Wonder Bread.
Oh yeah. They got some good buns, though, man. Okay. Anyway, no, I just think everything's it's a dangerous world. That's what my parents told me, and then they let me go out the door. It's a dangerous world. Watch out. Yeah. So that was sufficient,
No, I agree with what you're saying. You do have to have your personal responsibility to say, this could be dangerous. Maybe I shouldn't do this. Just because it's available or legal doesn't mean that you should go into it 100%. So yeah, common sense is not so common. All right, moving on here. We've got the article on MLive here I want to share with you. I thought this was interesting. It's talking about prices going up. Medical marijuana market as supply wanes, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, basically they're saying prices are up. And I thought it was interesting, the numbers that they had. So they had August, they said sale of wholesale price of medical marijuana hit $2.49 per ounce, which is the highest price point the market has seen to date, according to figures from the Marijuana Regulatory Agency. So I don't know, how long the agency's really been keeping numbers since they just got formed this year, but they may have numbers from previous years from the medical marijuana program here in Michigan. Obviously, you guys know what the prices are. You're in this every day. And there has been, obviously, at this time of year, as there always is this time of year, what we like to refer to as, for those of us that have been in this business, as a drought. It's freaking dry, all right? It's hard to get good flower right now. Everybody knows it. There's a shortage out there. For those of you that don't understand the term dry, it means there's just not as much marijuana out there available as we would all like. And maybe there is some, but it's not the kind you want, or it's not the strain you were looking for. It's not the type of form that you like to consume. Whatever it may be, there's a shortage going on. And of course, market and supply, anytime you have a shortage, you have a price increase. It's just natural. And I think that this is sort of being blown out of proportion for one deal. For like I said, most of us have been in this for a while, know that every time August and September roll around before the outdoor crop gets done, people run out of weed. It's what happens every year. There's only so many people that grow indoors, and there's only so many people of those that can do it well all year long, regardless of the conditions outside. And when you have things like summer and changing elements and so on and so forth, those crops suffer. And of course, people who grew outdoors last year, their supply has run out by now. So this is just a natural cycle of cannabis. And for those of you that are new to it, welcome. And it'll all be over very shortly. The outdoor harvest will be coming in, and nobody will be talking about how prices are so high. They'll be talking about how they are so low, and how about people can't make enough money, and blah, 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 blah. So right now may not be the best time for patients because there's a shortage. Prices are a little higher. It may not be the best time for some caregivers because they don't have enough product. But it will change. It'll turn around very quickly. And this is one of those interesting things, or at least in our industry, where we go from the extreme end to the other extreme of our annual cycle within a 1 month period. I mean, we go from being dry to the driest point to all of a sudden having more weed than we ever knew what to do with for that particular 12-month cycle. And that's the way it always works. So as people continue to wrap up their outdoor harvest, good luck to them. You know, watch out for powdery mildew and stuff like that. And as those things start to creep on, like bud rot, hopefully this next 10 days that we're supposed to be forecasted with warm weather will help you finish up a nice, healthy, strong crops. And we can all have good meds at good prices again. But at any rate, that's where it's at. I thought it was interesting. They also talked about the licensed producers out there. They basically are saying that they can't keep it in stock. They're growing as fast as they can, and the shelves just are emptying out regardless. Green Peak Industries is quoted in here saying they're selling everything they can produce. And of course, you know, those guys right now, they're producing indoors, controlled facilities, so on and so forth. And obviously they're expanding their growth, so they'll probably be growing and producing more in the future, but they're controlled. They're going to be limited. And right now they're seeing the benefit of this drought, if you will. So it'll be interesting to see what they have to say for themselves in 60 days when everybody's outdoor crop comes in and everybody has their own medicine. What will Green Peak be saying and talking about then? We'll have yet to see. So that's the market. That's Snapshot right now. You guys already knew that, but I wanted to share with you and let you know it's not just here in Flint. It is around the state. It is around the country. That's the way it goes. All right, next subject, the vape ban. We talked about this last week. Of course, I think it's insane, next to fascism or whatever you want to call it. Seems to be the popular term now that everybody's using. I think it's dictatorial, whatever. But yeah, the governor stepped up, said she wants to ban all flavored e-cig products. Flavored tobacco is what she specifically referenced. And there's an article in the Detroit Free Press, I recommend you check this one out, talking about the unintended consequences of the vape ban. And it gets into a couple different aspects. I don't want to go into all of those, but I did want to point out that I do think there are a number of unintended consequences. One of those ones I did mention on the show last week, and it's simply there's a lot of folks out there that stopped smoking cigarettes, switched to a vape product, and simply do not want to have to go back to cigarettes. They feel that this is the ultimatum they're being given because of this action by the governor, and of course that's a terrible ultimatum. You shouldn't have to make that choice. We also have seen if you will, I think what is a plethora of propaganda on vape health consequences. So we've just seen in the matter of last few days, and not just here in Michigan, but on national news, I think it's up to 5 different cases now reported of vape deaths, if you will. People that have so-called died from vaporizing. Of course, we're talking about tobacco products, not marijuana. But nonetheless, we're going to get in today a little bit about the dangers of vaping, why it can be dangerous. And I think you might realize it has nothing to do with whether or not there's nicotine or THC in there. It has to do with the other stuff that's in your vape product. And we'll get into that in a second. But before we do, I just wanted to point this article out. I thought they did a good job. Again, it's the unintended consequences of the flavored vape ban. It's in the Detroit News. And one of the things I also wanted to mention that is pointed out into the article is the loss of business. there have been a number of businesses that have opened up around the state. In fact, I know of one just recently opened up the doors right down in Grand Blanc, because I saw the banner on their building, now open. They just literally just opened up a vape shop. And it's places like this, they are small businesses that will be ultimately affected by this ban. And, and obviously if it's something that's killing people, then we don't need businesses in the business of doing that. All right. And that's not what I'm advocating for. But what I am saying is that I don't think this is killing people. I think it's a choice. I think it can be abused just like anything else. I also think that it's people's choice. People should be able to have that choice. And the unintended consequences of this, obviously people going back to cigarettes, I think it's a big one. And the other thing is loss of jobs. That's another big one as well.
I've heard of people choking to death on a hot dog, so I guess we're supposed to ban all Coney Islands, right?
I mean, literally, when you think about the literally millions of vape products that have been produced and sold in the United States, a lot of them weren't produced in the United States, but they were sold here. Nonetheless, across the country, nationwide, it is in the millions. And when you talk about 5 people have reported deaths because of this, that's not a trend. That's not even a trend. It's an anomaly.
How many kids die each year because of high school sporting events? Like a football, basketball.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, I'm serious.
No, that's a statistic you could put to and say, all right, hey, if you play football, you gotta. I don't know this is the real number, but let's just say it's a 1% chance that you're gonna break your left toe or whatever it may be. You could put a number to that because it happens over and over again. But when you have literally millions of uses of this product and only 5 people have died, that's not a statistic. That's a one-off.
People die of peanut butter reactions.
Well, I think you probably had more people blow themselves up with their phones in their pocket or their vape in their pocket than you have had, related health consequence. But anyways, we're going to get into that in a minute, and I don't want to discredit the concerns that you may need to consider when you're vaping. All right, there are some concerns there, but I think this is, for the most part, over dramatized, propagandized, and I believe that there are big money or dark money behind these ads, behind these decisions. And I don't know if it's the tobacco industry or whatever. I mean, that seems kind of silly to me because most of the big tobacco companies owned most of the big vape companies. But I might be wrong. But it just seems to me like this is very well coordinated across the country. It's not just our governor. It is in news media. It is in propagandized advertisement that's being put out by different groups and nonprofits out there that have already had this put together, ready to deliver, and it's hitting like this. And when stuff happens like that, it's been coordinated and planned and paid for quite some time. So this isn't just a spur of the moment decision by our governor. It is very well calculated and has been rolled out with precision. And I know that she is trying to portray to you that, she just had a conversation with her daughters over a bowl of cereal in the morning and decided, hey, you know what I can do today? I can protect our kids. And she went to work and wrote this ban. That's not how it went down. This is planned out by very smart people with a whole lot of money, and it is a heck of a lot bigger than just our state. And, not to drum up some kind of grand conspiracy here, but maybe it is. Who knows? All right, anyways, moving on here. I'm going to talk about a couple of our cities in Michigan and their marijuana regulations, ordinances. First one is Port Huron. Port Huron basically right now has a ban on all recreational marijuana businesses. And they're saying that don't worry, they'll get it together, and hopefully soon, maybe next summer, they'll roll something out for you guys. I'm so sick of townships acting like they are the Santa Clauses of the, holding the keys to businesses. You know what I mean? It's just ridiculous. Some of these guys out there are, looking to get a paycheck on the side. Some of these people out there are more along this type of thing where they have this, we are the great leaders of our society, and we know what's best for everyone else. And we will grant you what we know is best for you when we decide you should have such thing. Doggone it, they're supposed to be there to represent us. And, I guess so if Port Huron, if you people there want to have something in your city for recreational cannabis, adult use, you're going to have to push for it. Or you're going to have to drive somewhere else. Because that's what's going to happen. These cities are going to say, no, we don't do this. No, we're not going to do this. Maybe we'll do it later. And in the meantime, you're driving to wherever. Somebody's not getting paid. Somebody's not getting taxes. Because people in your city council decided what's best for you. Look up your community. You can check it out on MLive and find out if your particular community voted for adult recreational cannabis use. It'll have the percentage right on there. You'll find that the majority of the communities out there in Michigan voted for it. That's why it passed as a state. It's not because, just a few well-populated areas voted for this. Generally, as a whole, almost every single county, township around Michigan voted yes. There's a few that said no, but the majority voted yes. So when your city council tells you no, they're not representing the majority of the people in your community. Just understand that. So you have the power to change that, and they need to start doing their job in representing you, not telling you what it is that you need or don't need. That's what's up with Port Huron. The other thing I wanted to mention, this is a totally different topic, and I think it's pretty cool. Definitely wanted to share with you guys. Out in Oregon, if I can find this article here. I will find it. Take me a minute. Out in Oregon, they are basically rallying, gathering signatures, trying to get it on the ballot for, believe it or not, medical psilocybin. That's the nuts and bolts of the article. If I could find it, I will share it a little bit more thoroughly with you. But yeah, that is what's going on in Oregon. It's pretty phenomenal. I don't know of any other state that has addressed that. I think there was Denver had something along, like the city of Denver had something like a decrim bill or something like that. We might have reported on that a few podcasts ago. But Oregon is trying to get that on the ballot. It would be phenomenal if they did. For those of you that don't know, psilocybin is a medicinally used substance. And just like cannabis, it has a lot of things about it that you've been told about or maybe heard about that are entirely not true. And there are many beneficial things to it as well. So it's something that I've had an interest in for a while. It's not something I regularly partake of. I'm not an expert in it. Don't claim to be. But I have talked to a number of other people that have used it for a number of different ailments and have found it therapeutic, period. It's effective. Things from anxiety, depression, PTSD, even dealing with cluster migraines. And I know that's a big one for a lot of folks out there because there doesn't seem to be anything that really helps. And who would have ever thought that something like psilocybin, a mushroom, would be effective for that? I certainly didn't. I'm no doctor, not that I would ever know anything anyways, but didn't think that could be related, and it is somehow. And I did meet a couple of different individuals who have used it for that purpose and have found it incredibly effective. And no, it's not like they have to be high on mushrooms to find it effective. That's not how it works. It sort of resets the bacteria in the body and allows the body to heal itself, if you will, in a sense. So it provides a long-lasting sort of coverage in some cases for some of these ailments, whether it be, like I said, cluster migraines or anxiety or depression. But it seems to make a big difference, not just physically, but also mentally. And I think it's something we definitely need to allow. It doesn't seem to be harmful. It's not lethal. You can't die from it. It's not habit forming. It's not addictive, of course. Most folks that use this type of substance are like, that was great. You want to do it again? No. Or at least not for a while. And I think that there are some folks out there that do a small amount daily, where it's a totally type of different experience. But at any rate, it's something that should be considered, thought of, and definitely not something that people should be going to jail over. This is not a hard kind of a drug. Never should have been put in with the Controlled Substances Act. And unfortunately, it got stereotyped in with all the hippie propaganda they tried to spew out to get their laws passed. And it worked. But unfortunately, it is illegal, and that should change because there's a lot of good uses this could be put into use for. So, at any rate, kudos to Oregon. Good stuff there. Awesome stuff. Okay, back to our state here. And this is dealing with people who have past criminal convictions for marijuana-related crimes, and I'm talking about here in Michigan. And okay, so this is what they've been working on. If I can read it, it's so damn small. All right, sorry about that. It's kind of small. It says the legislation is about the moral character and moral future of our state. Robbie said, Robbie said during a news conference in Detroit on Monday, says we are looking at Michigan becoming a leader in the nation on this issue, making sure that justice can once again prevail in the state, that all Michiganders are treated fairly and can get employment if they would like to get a job. And of course, you're talking about clearing people's records. Among the reforms, the package would allow individuals with marijuana convictions to be set aside for crimes that would no longer be prohibited under the recently changed state law. It would also shorten the eligibility period from 5 to 3 years and allow minor crimes for similar offenses to be consolidated for forgiveness based on the actions of one bad night, the proposal notes. So it's a part of another proposal, but at any rate, we're talking about getting those records cleaned up, getting the people that are affected by this straightened out, and treating them fairly. Now that we have a law that says what was once illegal is no longer, it is legal now, it is permissible, and these people should no longer be paying for that. They should no longer be incarcerated or whether it's on probation or parole, whatever it may be. They need to be exonerated from this, and they also need to be able to have a possibility, a clean slate, if you will, so that they can have a second start. It's very difficult for a lot of these people to find employment with marks on their records. That needs to be addressed as well, and that is included in this. So, and in fact, actually, in the next part of the article, it goes on to state that Detroit Mayor Mike Dugan and State Representative Graham Filler, representative out of DeWitt, who chairs the House Judiciary Committee, joined in the announcement that took place near the future site of the $2.5 billion Fiat Chrysler automobiles plant on the city's east side that's expected to bring 5,000 jobs to Detroit. We have far too many citizens in this state and in the city whose talents we have discarded and marginalized for way too long, Dugan said. Folks who paid their debt, wanted to rebuild their lives, and as a state have made it far too difficult. In Detroit alone, about 82,000 residents are eligible for expungement under the state's current laws. If the proposal goes through, the city estimates 133,000 more would qualify, for a total of 214,000 residents. Says an attorney for Project Clean Slate, Detroit's free expungement program. The state's current law is very narrow in scope, the lawmakers contend, only allowing ex-offenders to petition for expungement after a minimum of 5 years. This law would permit applications sooner, remove barriers to employment, and broaden the pool of skilled labor, they said. So, addressing this is sort of, like I said, it's part of a package. I'm glad that it's being addressed, but I don't feel that is fair because I feel like Michigan voted to legalize cannabis for adult purposes. If you were convicted for that exact same thing and currently serving because of it, you should automatically be exonerated.
Yeah,
I don't think that you should. I'm not saying the state should give you your money back if you paid fees and stuff like that, but you should be exonerated. You should be dropped, walk out a free man if you're in jail. If you're on parole, parole's done. If you were paying fines, you don't have to pay them anymore. If you had a record because of that, your record is now clean. You can move on, start over again. That's what it should be. It should have been done the day that we voted yes, the next day.
Yeah, just look at the numbers.
Automatically.
Look at the numbers you cited there for 80-some thousand people who are, who would qualify for expungement. These people are not murderers or rapists. I mean, the bulk of them aren't. Like 95% of that number isn't.
But they wouldn't be out of prison yet.
Right. So I mean, why are they still having this like stigma attached to them? after so many years. I've known several guys that haven't reoffended in 28, 30, 35 years. They've been out of prison. They haven't done anything illegal ever after that.
And to be clear, we're talking about two different issues here. One is the people that were affected by the marijuana law. The other one is people who have previous past convictions, have paid their time, but now can't get a job because their record is dirty. And so it's good that we're dealing with both. And I think it's great that these two politicians are standing up and saying this needs to be addressed. But, I mean, I think you can see the dilemma here. You know what I mean? I feel like the marijuana shouldn't need any addressment. It should just automatically be done. It seems like common sense. You know, if the light turns green, you go, kind of a thing. Real simple. The other thing that's going on here, I think that's excellent. I do know that there's a lot of folks out there that have paid their time and deserve a second chance. And how on earth can you ever let them get back on their feet if you won't even give them a job? You won't even give them an opportunity to prove their worth. That seems really backwards to me. So, and I know that there's a lot of employers out there that if you have a previous conviction, you cannot work there. They won't even let you fill out an application. And we're talking about remedial jobs. We're not talking about like, can you be the plant manager at the nuclear facility? We're talking about, places like, working at Walmart or working at, the bank or whatever it is, where you're just, front basic thing. And I mean, stuff that you would never even like working for a travel agency. They would want you to have a background check and, oh, did you have any felonies, so on. Oh, you can't do that. Are you kidding me? But anyways, yeah, this needs to be addressed. It holds a lot of people back. Our criminal justice system is really out of control anyways. And I think this is one way to sort of put it back in check. So, all right, let's see here. This was back to the vape issue. I thought this was interesting. I want to share it with you. And I thought it was pretty noble as well. One company out there basically was doing something about the vape thing. He heard about the vape ban. Maybe it's whatever. This is what's going on. Walled Lake devised a plan. Greenhouse in Walled Lake devised a plan to accept trade-ins for 5 days where participants could trade in their nicotine products for CBD or medical THC products for free. The promotion runs September 11th through the 15th, and the greenhouse owner, Jerry Millen, is partnering with Platinum Vape, a cannabis company, to give around, he says, what is about $50,000 in products. He said he heard of Whitmer's ban, which will prohibit, obviously, we know, blah, 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 blah. He says you can bring in an empty jewel pen, an empty box, an empty liquid vape. It doesn't matter what it is. Medical marijuana patients can bring in vape products and receive state licensed and tested THC vape pens, THC, blah, 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 blah. They talk about that. People can trade it. People without a medical marijuana card can trade in their nicotine vape products for CBD ones, blah, blah, blah. So, at any rate, this is, again, Walled Lake is the place. Greenhouse is the name of it. Guy's name is Jerry Millen. And giving away basically $50,000 worth of vape products, THC or CBD. All you got to do is bring them your empty tobacco cartridge, or any cartridge for that matter, sounds like. So, nice little gimmick, nicely done. Kudos to you, sir, very well. And there you go. I wanted to let you guys know about that. Don't miss out on your opportunity to get a free card. All right. Anyways, next story here. Oh. Well, I guess I'm going to continue with the vape thing for just one more minute before we get into the next subject. And previously I stated I wanted to let you guys know what's up with vapes so that you're aware of the concerns out there. And I think we do need to talk about this. First of all, before we get into it too far, I'll let you know I'm not a vape expert. There's people in the club that are much more well versed at this than I. I'm just going to simply share information with you that I've collected, and you can make the decisions for yourself. So, let's get into this a little bit, and as I stated, you can make your own decisions, all right? But with vape, obviously, there are materials inside your cart, inside the cartridge, whatever you want to call it. There's different things in there. It's either going to be primarily you're buying a nicotine product or you're buying a cannabis product. If it's cannabis, it's either CBD or it's THC, one of the two, or it's going to be a mix of the two or something. Essentially, two products out there. in a million different ways that it's being presented, whether it's being in a round cart, square cart, whatever cart, horse cart, I don't care cart. I mean, lots of different ways that these things look, but they're all pretty much the same. The difference is what those materials are being held in. So when you get a cart, it's usually not just one thing, it's a couple things. So let me get into this, pull up the article here, if I could find it. Here we go. At least I thought. Here we went. Here we go. Contaminant in vaping products linked to deadly lung illness. Oil derived from vitamin E found in marijuana samples, labs show. This is from the Washington Post. September 5th it was posted, and you can check it out for yourself, okay? But this is basically what they're saying, and where the concerns are when it comes to vaping, okay? So share this with your friends. Get the information out there. State and federal health officials investigating mysterious lung illnesses linked to vaping have found the same chemical in samples of marijuana products used by people sickened in different parts of the country and who use different brands of products in recent weeks. The chemical is an oil derived from vitamin E. Investigators at the U.S. Food and Drug Administration found the oil in cannabis products and samples collected from patients who fell ill across the states. FDA officials shared that information with state health officials during a telephone briefing, blah, blah, blah. The same chemical was also found in nearly all cannabis samples from patients who fell ill in New York in recent weeks, a state health department spokeswoman said. Vitamin E is found naturally in certain foods such as canola oil, olive oil, almonds. The oil derived from the vitamin, known as vitamin E acetate, is commonly available as a nutritional supplement and is used in topical skin treatments. It is not known to cause harm when ingested as a vitamin supplement or applied to the skin. Its name sounds harmless, experts said, but its molecular structure could make it hazardous when inhaled. Its oil-like properties could be associated with the kinds of respiratory symptoms that many patients have reported: cough, shortness of breath, and chest pain, officials said. In quotes, we knew from earlier testing by New York that they had found vitamin E acetate to have FDA talk about it from their overall testing plan. That was the most remarkable thing that we heard, said one official who listened to the briefing but was not authorized to speak. It says here, the FDA also told state officials Wednesday that its lab test found nothing unusual in nicotine products that had been collected from sick patients, according to another person who took part in the call. The investigation has been particularly challenging for health authorities. They say they don't know what they're looking for. This is from the official at the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, which is leading the investigation. It says officials are trying to come up with a consistent definition of the illness and a standardized system for collecting information from the states. Unlike certain infectious diseases such as measles, which are required to be reported to federal authorities, states are not required to report possible cases of vape-related illnesses to the CDC, and they still don't know what vaping ingredient or ingredients are causing the lung injuries. State health departments are reporting new cases weekly. As of August 27th, there were 215 possible cases reported by 25 states. Additional reports of lung illnesses are under investigation, according to the CDC. And I'm not going to read the rest of the article to you, but that basically puts it in a nutshell. There's certainly a concern out there. There have been some people who reported finding related illness, possibly from this. We've had in the recent news lately 5 deaths being associated to this. And yeah, as it is, there isn't a lot of research on what happens when you smoke vitamin E. All right, we know that it's okay for you to take it as a supplement. It's a great thing to put on your skin, especially if you have like a sunburn or something. It's fantastic. It's okay to just, and when you get it, it's usually like in an oil. Like they said, it comes from different types of oils. You can ingest it, put it right in your mouth. But what happens when you set it on fire and inhale it? That's something we haven't normally done with vitamin E, and now we're starting to find out. So that could be a potential irritant in some of these vape carts that are out there. I do also know that there are a lot of different types of carts, as I stated, as I started with this, and not all carts are created equal. So if you're a consumer, if you're a patient, and you're out there and you're checking out vape products, especially when it comes to medical marijuana. I can't speak so much on tobacco products. I'm not really an expert on that. I don't know. But when it comes to marijuana, some carts are not necessarily going to have vitamin E in there. It might be some other type of substance. I'm not saying that necessarily makes it safer, but it might, and it's something that you need to find out. So some of these carts that have been pointed out in the news are, I guess if you will, large companies. They ship thousands and literally tens of thousands of carts all over the country. There's a couple of the name brands that were mentioned. You can look them up if you're really concerned about it. But most of the time, if you're getting your stuff from a caregiver, they should know exactly what's in that cart. And if you're getting it from a store or from somewhere else, check the label, do your research, make sure it's been tested, find out what's in there. If you're experiencing any type of symptoms, obviously, stop use. I mean, that's kind of a no-brainer, but maybe you need to hear that. If you're going around wheezing all the time and that's not normally you, lay off. But at any rate, do your homework, all right? There has not been enough research on this to say one way or another. I've heard good and bad from both sides of the story. I certainly don't think it's worth banning. I don't think prohibition's ever a good idea. But at any rate, there may be legitimate concerns to this, so be aware. All right. Next article I want to share with you, and this is the last one I have for you for the day. This is dealing with the American Banking Association. Pretty sure these guys all sit around in Halloween costumes every day of the year. But at any rate, let me pull this up for you. If I can find it. Oh, goodness. Here we go. Apologize. Takes a minute sometimes. All right. This is from Kyle Yeager. Thank you, Kyle. Says the head of the American Banking Association is predicting that the House of Representatives will pass legislation allowing banks to service state legal marijuana businesses as early as this month and no later than October. That's pretty astounding announcement. Let me read that again to you. The head of the American Bankers Association is predicting that the House of Representatives will pass legislation allowing banks to service state legal marijuana businesses as early as this month and no later than October. In an interview on the podcast Engage with Andy Bush that was released on Friday, the ABA CEO Rob Nichols said that his group will be actively lobbying for the bipartisan cannabis banking bill in order to provide clarity to financial institutions that currently worry about taking on marijuana-related clients and will put them at risk of federal penalization. He emphasized the bipartisan nature of the Secure and Fair Enforcement Banking Act, which currently has 206 co-sponsors in the House, including 26 Republicans. The legislation that has already passed in the House Financial Services Committee early in this year by a huge bipartisan margin, and that is something that he predicts as early as September, probably no later than October, will pass the full House of Representatives by a bipartisan majority, which he says is very exciting. So it'll be interesting to see how this goes. You can check out the rest of the article for yourself. I'm trying to find out where it was posted at. marijuanamoment.net. But yeah, we'll see if he's right or not. Head of the ABA Association coming out saying he's getting that deal done. The Safe Banking Act's going to go through. feels like it's going to happen real soon, obviously, if he's stating September no later than October. We'll see how accurate he is or not. But at any rate, it's definitely something we've waited for a long time to be treated as regular businesses, to be able to bank. And obviously it's a major concern for businesses across the country. Here we are operating in legitimate scenes, paying ridiculous amounts of taxes and fees to the government, and not allowed to even have a doggone checking account. A lot of the vendors that businesses use, you can only do business with them electronically. So it's kind of hard to send them a $5 bill if you just ordered a pack of toilet paper for your business. So things that regular businesses may not ever even think about, it's definitely a big concern in the marijuana business world, and hopefully this will fix that. So, all right, that's the news for today. I want to say thank you for being with me. Thanks for being back here in studio, John, and making this happen. AllPointsTV.com is always rocking, and please check out the other podcasts they have here to keep you guys informed. So the other thing is, get down to the club. It's happening. It's going on. We got that fire like I was talking about, and it's the place to be. Michigan's caregivers are the best. They're always going to be the best, and that's never going to change. So thank you for being part of the club. We appreciate everything that you guys do. Keep it real, and catch me here next time on the Genesee County Compassion Club show. Love you guys. See ya.